Hello, this is Gyral Winnie of Group 15, starting my report on a little history of PNP. So, PNP was established by Republic Act number 6975, which is the nation's leading law enforcement agency under the DILG. Republic Act number 6975 was originally named as the DILG Act of 1990, which was approved by President Corazon Aquino, particularly on December 13, 1990. After more than 7 years, a new police act was established. It is the Republic Act number 8551, which is also called as the PNP Reform and Reorganization Act of 1999. It was approved by President Fidel Ramos. This law still supports the concept that the PNP is the primary law enforcement organization in the Philippines, which is national in scope and civilian in character. Next, we have theory and philosophy of police service. We have two theories, the Home Rule theory and the Continental theory. In the Home Rule theory, police officers are servants of the community or the people. This is applied in countries with decentralized government structures. Continental theory, police officers are considered servants of higher authorities. These are applied in countries with centralized government structure. So, in the Home Rule theory, effectiveness of police functions are expressed upon the wishes of the people. While on the Continental theory, people had no share in their duties. Yes. Next, we have the fundamental concepts of police services. We have two, the old concept and the modern concept. In the old concept, arrest is the main concern of the police in dealing with criminals. While on the modern concept, police are considered as the mechanism of crime prevention. In the old concept, police are more reactive than proactive. Why? Because they focus on arresting and incarcerating criminals. More arrest, more effective, more efficient. While on the modern concept, they are more related to order maintenance and peacekeeping. Why? Because police effectiveness is on the absence of crime in the society. Yes. Next, we have the police organizational concepts and principles. So what is police organization units? It is the component of an organization delegated to perform a specific task functions. First, we have the functional units. 1. Bureau, largest organic unit within a large department. Next, division, the primary subdivision of a bureau. 3. Section, smaller functional unit within a division that is necessary for specialization purposes. Last, unit, the smallest group within a section when further specialization is needed. For further representation, here is an example of a bureau. Yes. The next, if divided into subdivisions, that would be division. If it is divided into smaller functional unit, it would be the section. If this section are divided into smaller sections, we have the unit. Yes. Next, we have the geographical units. First three, we have post, route, beat. Post, it is a fixed point or location where a police officer is assigned for duty. This may include designated desk, an intersection or crosswalk, or a point of ingress or egress. It is a permanent spot for general guard duty. Next, we have route, a length of streets designated for patrol purposes. Beat, an area assigned for patrol purposes, whether by foot or motorized. Here is an example. The blue one is a post. A post, that's a picture where I got from Bontok. Yes, that is an example of a post. Next, if I was on a patrol and I was designated to a street to have my patrol, and I was designated to the West Street going to the north. So I have to follow the route. Next, beat. Here is an example of a beat. Yes. Next, geographical units. We have the sector, district, and area. Sector, an area containing 2 or more beats, routes, or posts. Next, district, a geographical subdivision of a city for patrol purposes, usually with its own station. Next, area, a section or territorial division of a large city or metropolis, each composed of designated districts. Here is a further representation. We have an area. That is an example of an area. If divided, it would be it would be a district. If that district divided, that would be a sector. And that's all. Thank you.
This is Glyzel Rulia, reporter for this part of the topic PNP and PNPA. So, in this part, police functions. Duties and responsibilities explicitly carried out by police agencies to meet the demands concerning public order and public safety. So we have here the types of police functions. Line functions. These are designed to meet the basic police mission like patrol, traffic enforcement, or criminal investigation. Second is the staff functions. Those that exist to support line functions either directly or indirectly like planning and research unit. Third is the auxiliary support services. Those charged with the responsibility of giving immediate assistance to the operations of line elements like communication and crime laboratory services. Next is the administrative services. Those that provide services that are of less immediate assistance and are supportive of the entire police department like personnel and training. So let's move on to the functions of the police. We have here the maintain peace and order, enforce the laws in their respective assigned jurisdictions. Third is to prevent crimes. Fourth is to make arrests, search, and seizure in accordance with law. Next is investigate crimes. Next is to prosecute offenders. Next is to ensure the public safety. And next is to protect life and property. Principles of police organization. First principle is the unity of objectives. This means that every police officer should play a part in the attainment of the objectives of the police organization. Second is the organizational efficiency. This principle requires that, in order that the PNP organization is effective, it must be structured in a certain manner to accomplish the objectives with a minimum cost. Next is the scalar principle. This requires a vertical hierarchy of an organization which defines the unbroken chain of units and command from top to bottom. describing explicitly the flow of authority. Next is the unity of command. It states that a group of police officers should only be under the control of one superior or ranking police officer. Next is the span of control. It states that a senior police officer should be provided with men not more than what he can effectively direct. Next is the delegation of authority. A superior officer must designate some of his immediate subordinates to exercise a part of his administrative power. However, the power passed on by the superior officer carries an appropriate responsibility. Next principle is the authority level, or we call the hierarchy of authority. These decisions within the authority of the police station commanders should be made by them and should not be referred to their superiors, such as the police district commander or the PNP provincial director. Last principle is the parity and responsibility. The responsibility of the head of the investigation section for the actions of his detectives cannot be greater than that implied by the authority he has delegated, or should it be less? Next, we have here the types of organizational structure. First is the line organization. It is sometimes called the individual, military, or in their departmental type of organization. It is the simplest, perhaps the oldest type. Second types of organizational structure is the functional organization. It violates the prime rule that men perform best when they have one supervisor. It divides responsibility and authority between several specialists, such as the person responsible for all training. Lastly, line and staff organization. It is a combination of the line and functional types. It combines staff specialists or units with line organization so that service of knowledge can be provided line personnel best by specialists.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, classmate. Now let's proceed to the introduction to the different law enforcement and public safety agencies. So, the introduction of the Philippines is a republic with a presidential form of government wherein power is equally divided among its three branches. These are the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The executive branch, which is composed of the president and vice president of the country, who are elected by direct popular vote and serve as term of 6 years. It's also the Constitution grants the president authority to appoint his cabinet and forms a large portion of the country, bureaucracy, and responsible for enforcing the law. The next is the legislative branch. This is also made up of the House and the Senate, which is known as the Congress. And lastly, the judicial, which has the power vested in the courts, with the Supreme Court of the Philippines as the highest judicial body of it. Now, let us proceed to discuss some of the department of the government law enforcing bodies and some of their role and functions. So, the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or we call the DILG. This is the executive department responsible for promoting and maintaining peace and order, ensuring that public safety and strengthening local government capability to aim towards the effective delivery of basic services, to the citizens and mainly responsible of the following, like to assist the President in exercising the general supervision over local government, also to organize, train, and equip primarily for the performance of police functions, a police force that is national in scope and civilian in character. The yeah. So, and here is the following department, uh, which is the Bureau of Protections. The Bureau of Fire Protections, which is our very own firefighter units. Next is the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. This this department is to direct, supervises, and control the administration and operation of all district, city, and municipal jail nationwide. Next is the Local Government Bureaus, which is subdivided into smaller departments as follows are the Bureau of Local Government Development, the Bureau of Local Government Supervisions, the National Barangay Operation Office, and the Office of Project Development Services. And now the National Police Commission NAPOLCOM. This is mandated by the 1987 Constitution and the major police reforms laws that the Republic 6975 and 8551 to control and administer the Philippine National Police, which has the authority to administer police entrance examination, to investigate police and anomalies and irregularities, and also to summarily dismiss erring police officers. Are the types of the National Police, or we call the NAPOLCOM. First is the Philippine National Police and the Philippine Public Safety College. When we say Philippine Public Safety College, this is a training, human resource of development, and continuing education of all personnel of police, fire, and jail personnel. Yeah, especially for the police. From here, let us discuss regarding the Department of Justice and constituents and each of their essential functions. So, the Department of Justice. It is an act that the principal law agency and legal counsel of the government, which is served as the government prosecution arm and administer the government criminal justice system by investigating crimes, also prosecuting offenders and overseeing the correctional system. Or we simply describing it as the government body under the executive department of the Philippine government, which is responsible for upholding the rule of the law in the country, which is a country that is constituents of the following. Following first is the Bureau of Corrections. The Bureau of Corrections, this is the charge and of the custody and rehabilitation of the national offenders that is sentenced to serve an imprisonment more than 3 years. Next is the National Bureau of Investigation. This is responsible for handling and solving major high-profile cases that are in the interest of the nation. Next is the Parole Probation Administration. This is mandated to conserve or redeem convicted offenders and prisoners who are under the probation or parole system. Next is the Presidential Commission of Government. The President Commission on Government, this was created by former President Corazon C. Aquino after she was sworn in as president in the aftermath of 1986 People Power Revolution, which is to investigate on the Marcos ill-gotten wealth and presently the investigating body on other cases of graft and corruption, and instituting of corruption prevention measures. Next is the Public Attorney's Office, or we call the PAO. The PAO says that it shall independently discharge its mandate to render free of charge legal representation, assistance, and counseling to indigent persons in criminal, also civil labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial cases. Okay, the Office for Alternative Dispute Resolution. This is the mandates are to promote, develop, and expand the use of alternative dispute resolution in the public or private sector. Next is the Office of the Government Corporate Council. This is to serve as the principal law of office of all government-owned or controlled corporations, their subsidiaries, and other corporate upstream and government-acquired asset corporation. Next is the Office of the Solicitor General, or we call the OSG. The Office of the Solicitor General, which we call the law firm of the Republic of the Philippines, and it is the principal law officer and legal defender of the country. And lastly, the Land Registration Authority, or we call the LRA, which exists for the sole purpose of implementing and protecting the torrent system of land titling and registration, and it's the repository of land records involving registered or titled lands. So, finally, we will proceed on the National Defense, or we call the Department of or we call the DND, the Department of the National Defense. This is mandated to safeguard the country against the external and internal threats to national peace and security. When we say external, we are referring to the foreign government with the hostile intention threatening our security and vicinity, with a perfect example with the West Philippine Sea. Next is to promote the welfare of soldiers and veterans and to provide support for economic and social development. These are the type of the DND, the Armed Force of the Philippines, which is to consist the three main services branches. First, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy, with the country's president acting as the commander-in-chief. Next is the government arsenal, or we call the GA. This also responsible for the production of basic weaponry and ammunition for the Armed Force of the Philippines. And the Philippine National Police, or we call the PNP, and among others, and for the sale and export of products in excess of AFP or PNP requirements. Next is the National Defense College of the Philippines. This is an educational or a training and research agency of the Philippine government located inside the camp of General Emilio Aguinaldo, and it is responsible for providing continued and intensive studies of the diverse problems relating to the national defense and security. So next is the Office of the Civil Defense, or we call the OCD. This Office of the Civil Defense has the primary mission of administering comprehensive national civil defense, and also a disaster risk reduction and management program by providing leadership in a continuous development of strategic and systematic approach, as well as a measure to reduce the vulnerabilities and risks to hazards and the consequence of disasters. And lastly is the Philippine Veterans Office, or we call the PVAO. The PVAO serves to fulfill a national commitment as embodied in Section 7 or the Article 16 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. It says that the state shall provide immediate and adequate care, benefits, and other forms of assistance to war veterans and veterans of military campaigns. their surviving opposites and orphans. Funds that shall be provided therefore in due consideration shall be given them the disposition of agricultural lands of the public and appropriate cases. Also in the utilization of natural resources. The PVOW core functions include the administration of veterans pension and benefits, also memorialization of veterans' heroic deeds, and promotion of policies and management of service for veterans' affairs and welfare. That's all for my presentation, and I'm now handing it over to one of my group mates. Thank you.
So I'm going to discuss about Department of Social and Welfare Development. Quick history. It was initially named Ministry of Social Services and Development, or MSSD, on June 2, 1978. After some time on 1987, it was renamed Department of Social and Welfare Development through Executive Order 123, which was signed by late President Corazon Aquino. So let's move on to function. So to put it briefly, the main function of this agency is to help those Filipino people who are not capable of living a normal life to have a better life. Give them shelter, food, clothes, and uplift them spiritually, physically, mentally, and socially. So here are some offices under DSWD. Number 1, Council for the Welfare of the Children. So this one formulates and evaluates policies and makes sure that these laws will help the children. Next, Inter-Country Adoption Board. So they make the final decision on adoption application and proposals. They determine if those parents have the ability to give the child a normal life. Next is National Youth Commission. This group aims to harness and develop the youth to participate in nation building. Next is National Council on Disability Affairs. So this one makes sure that issues and problems of people with disabilities will be addressed. And next, Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council. This office makes sure that child at risk and child at conflict with law will be given due process of law. So next agency is Department of Transportation, or DOTR. This was formerly known as the Department of Transportation and Communications, an agency of the Philippine government responsible for the development and provision of efficient, effective, and secure infrastructure in the transportation and communications sector. Here are some offices under DOTR. Number 1, Land Transportation Office, or LTO. As you all know, this is the office that issues license to drive and gives seminars. Next one is Philippine Coast Guard. They are responsible to perform maritime search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, maritime safety, and maritime transportation. Number 3, airports. Number 4, Civil Aviation of the Philippines. Number 5, Philippine Merchant Marine Academy. PMMA produces competent seafarers and marine engineers. So next agency, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR. This agency is responsible for the conservation, management, and development of the country's environment and natural resources. They make sure that natural resources are well protected and properly used. They are the ones preventing illegal logging, dynamite fishing, kaingin, and other activities that can destroy our natural resources. So here are some programs under DENR. Number 1, Solid Waste Management. The collecting, treating, and disposing of solid materials that is discarded because it has served its purpose or is no longer useful. Number 2, Manila Bay Rehabilitation. I believe we have all heard about that, and we've already seen how clean it is. Next, enhance biodiversity conversion. Or scaling up of coastal and maritime ecosystem. This is a national program that aims to comprehensively manage, address, and effectively reduce the drivers and threats of degradation of the coastal and marine ecosystem in order to achieve and promote sustainability of ecosystem services, food security, and climate change. Thank you. That's all for me.
So let's proceed to the Department of Finance. When we talk about the word Department of Finance, it refers to the responsible for the management of the government financial resources. Its duties include policy formulation, revenue generation, resource mobilization, the management and financial market development. Bureau of Internal Revenue. The Bureau of Internal Revenue is mandated by law to assist and call all national internal revenue payers, fees, and charges. Bureau of Customs. The Bureau of Customs is one of the lead agencies responsible for the control and monitoring of the export-import of weapons of mass. Bureau of Treasury. Bureau of Treasury was mandated to, among others, act as principal custodian of all national government funds. Bureau of Local Government Finance. Since its inception is geared toward the compliance with regulatory requirements and provision of quality service delivery to its employees, the local government units, key stakeholders in the general public. Insurance Commission. It is also known as Acquisition Cost. National Tax Center. This is mandated to conduct continuing research in taxation. Central Board Assessment Appeal. It is a collegial appellate quasi-judicial body which decide on appeal before it. Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. This is a government instrumentality created in 1960s by virtue of Public Act 3591 to provide depositor protection and promote financial stability. It is an attached agency of Department of Finance, Philippine Export-Import Trade Agency. It is a government financial institution attached to the Department of Finance. Privatization and Management Office. It is an agency attached under the Department of Finance as mandated as marketing arm of the government with respect to transfer assets, government corporation and other properties assigned to it. Security and Exchange Commission. It is a national government regulatory agency charged with supervision over the corporate sector, the capital market participants in security and investment instruments market, and the protection of the investing market. Department of Foreign Affairs. When we say Department of Foreign Affairs, it elaborates the prime agency responsible for the pursuit of the state's foreign policy. Foreign Service Institute. The institute through its academic training, research, information, publication, systems, development, and other programs shall serve publication. System development and other programs shall serve as the center of development. Technical Cooperation sa Council of the Philippines. The Council was Secretariat is established in the Department of Foreign Affairs. Assess its strengthening and competitive edge of the Philippines in socio-economic development. National Commission of the Philippine Secretariat. Collaboration among nations through education, science, and culture remains a cornerstone of a peaceful world order. The Department of Health, DOH. When we talk about Department of Health, it is the principal health agency in the Philippines. It is responsible of ensuring access to basic public health services to all Filipinos through provision of quality health care and regulation provides of health goods and services. Philippine Health Insurance Corporation. Ensures that every member is protected through its comprehensive benefit packages that are both preventive and curative. Philippine Aid National Council. This is created to advise the government on development of policies to prevent and control HIV or AIDS. Philippine Institute of Tradition and Alternative Healthcare. It it ad- advocates for the development and use of traditional and alternative healthcare in the country. Populations Commission. It is a government agency mandated as the overall or coordinating, monitoring, and policy-making body of the population program. Dangerous Drugs Board, pertaining to law enforcement and control of dangerous drugs. National Nutrition Council, formulate national food and nutrition policies and strategies and serve as the policy coordinating of advisory body of food and nutrition.